Hello YouTube and welcome to GrunfWorks. This is episode 26 of the Interplanetary Voyage of Exploration. In today's episode we are going back to the moon and we are going to set a rover on it. In the previous episode or episodes we have been testing the small Packrat rover, and as you recall, when we were building or launching the Eve probe, we were also constructing our old trusty lander, which we have equipped with rover parts set in the Kerbal attachment system. So now we are assigning waypoints, and here I have chosen this specific area to land for the rover, which I think is ideal because it's interleaping in the 3 different biomes, and that I think to be really cool. So I was initially thinking going for anomalies, but I still need a lot of science, so I wanted to go to a place where at least 3 biomes intersect. So yeah, I think that would be the best location over here where we have just put our node. So standard launch, our standard lander. Nothing particularly interesting about it, except that right now on this cast containers that you can see, we have the parts containing the Packrat rover. And it's all components plus one structural pylon, which we will be using for assembly. So standard launch, burning for the apoapsis of 100, and then planning the transfer burn to the moon. So nothing really special here, and I'm already thinking that this lander has probably had a good enough service life, so in the probably next episode or so I will need to, or episodes, I might need to come up with a newer design with updated tech. So this is a little bit, you would call now ancient tech, now that we are using ion probes, and hopefully after this mission the objective would be to get enough science so that we unlock the secrets of the nuclear power generation and propulsion. So yes, we are going for the Nervous. Okay, 100 by 100, as you can see, standard starting orbit, and the goal of this mission is to get, like I said, unlock the enough research points so that we can unlock nuclear propulsion, which we will be needing, because if you can look at the Kerbal alarm clock, our Kerbal to Joule transfer is closing. And it's 87 days, still quite enough, but we have to account that building of the probe and also its assembly will take some time. We also must not forget that the communication range that we have would not be sufficient for the Joule, so I might need to build or upgrade our communications network, specifically the medium range satellites, with some longer range satellites. Probably I will keep the similar setup. I'll just slap one big antenna that will be pointing to the active craft, because right at the moment we have no plan on deploying satellites, so we don't really need to account for such a big building big satellites that cover really everything. That we will do for sure at the later stage. So as you can see, I'm going for the polar orbit, and the plan was to basically remain in that polar orbit until this green site that you can see that I have marked using the waypoint manager comes underneath us, and then we just drop a lander there, go to the surface, assemble the rover, and start roving, simply. The reason why I decided to go the path of the roving is, well, we already did science hopping on Minmus, so it was only fitting that do something similar for the moon. However, moon has bigger gravity, so hopping, it is efficient, but I would be a little bit repeating myself. So rather than repeating myself with a regular lander, I decided to use the lander that we used previously and focus on using the rover. So here you can see me setting up a maneuver node because, well, patience is not one of my strong suits, sadly. So that pretty much means that I want to do another orbit, and after I do the orbit, I want to land. And yes, so in the next pass, I'm expecting to land. I have accelerated this part because I thought the mission itself that I played when I was recording it, this is post commentary, but when I was playing it, it took me almost 2 hours. So I am not sure that I will manage to fit everything within this episode, and I want to show you guys how the roving went because it had its ups and downs. So yeah, I want you guys to see it. I don't want to skip parts per se, but rather I will play probably roving at a little bit more accelerated manner. So, okay, maneuver node set up, executed, and we are en route towards our landing site. And here we can see it below. I'm just now flipping my craft ever so carefully, deploying the landing legs, and ultimately, since we have chosen the site that would be on the border between 3 biomes, I didn't really care where do we land, because we're now around the polar crater. We want to just land somewhere near it. We don't need to be exactly spot on, because around that specific point, all 3 biomes should be close to each other. So, and if we manage to get science data from like 3 biomes using our rover, that would spell a pretty hefty amount of science, hopefully enough for us to unlock the Nervous. And probably some other things along the way, because I think there was another prerequisite for it, which was the nuclear generators, which will help us build maybe more advanced probes or what. Well, I don't know yet. I'll figure it out as I come along. So, we're not too far from our roving site, but then again, we are coming down for landing, and I'm just trying to find a decent slope, and this 19.3 slope is a little bit disconcerting, or oh Jesus, 22.7. Now that doesn't sound to me like the best landing site. So I notice in the distance a little bit further ahead, I notice some plane, and I decide to go towards that plane. So, and as my slope decreases, now it's around 10, so I think that should be enough. So 10 degrees, I mean, it's tilted, but it's still manageable. Oh, and 6.8, 7.2, well, oh, those are pretty nice. If I manage to land somewhere around that, I would be really happy. Just as long as it's not 19s or 20 or something like completely crooked. So yeah, I'm also now hovering a little bit till I find 5.7. Well, that sounds promising. So I'm a little bit now picky, because when we start roving, we want to be on more or less flat surface. So landing, coming ever so carefully for the landing, and we are currently we have landed. Okay, so let us quickly take all possible experiments. So that will yield us a healthy amount of science. So I'm just now collecting as much as possible, and this is from the biome polar crater. Okay. Getting crew report, EVA report, and now board anyway. Cool. So now we have still EVA report and the surface sample, which I will collect. Hold on. Oh, come on, please. Jump, will you? I think that's Gregkin over there. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's Gregkin. I haven't been actually paying attention, but yeah, well. Polar crater, done. And roving starts here. Cool. So, flag planted, and let us get inside, hopefully. And yeah, time to actually start deploying the rover parts. And well, here I have a small confession, don't judge me. Later I have found out, when looking in this crater, that for some stupid reason I did not have a pylon, which is pretty much essential for putting in, and I blame this on my game crashing when I was constructing the lander. So you will notice here that I have, in later post-editing, have added another cast container to the save, because I figured, well, it would probably be another component in one of those containers, and since it wasn't there, I've just added it rather than mounting a separate mission to send it over here, because if that had happened, not as the result of the crash, here you can see me extracting that pylon from additional containers. So if you were wondering where did this extra container came from, it came basically from me adding it to the persistent save, simply because at the time of the launch I was convinced that I had this in one of the containers. So, well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I reserve the right to edit and fiddle with it if it's result to a bug. If it was my own fault, then I would have accepted it and launched the mission to send another craft here. But that would kind of stretch this mission further than I would want to, and yeah, it wouldn't be fun for you guys. So, right now I'm assembling the rover, and due to the complexities of attaching stuff on pylon in 0.90, I'm doing it, let's say, turned upside down. But as long as I manage to assemble it, I'll be happy. I was really struggling. You are seeing now the accelerated footage, but in honestly attempting to assemble the rover before I started doing this upside down, it took me like an hour and a half just trying to assemble the rover right side up. So in the end I just said, well, just leave it as is and just continue with it. Okay, so I'm now just adding wheels, and I'll probably then just somehow find a way to flip it, just get the Kerbal underneath or bump into it, because the Munar gravity is quite low, so it will provide us with some opportunities on how to flip it. So, okay, open container, and what else do we have? We have the science crate, where we will be collecting all of our science data, and I'm just trying to figure out where to store it, because this is actually the first time that I'm assembling the Packrat rover from the Kerbal attachment system. In the episode 24, if you remember, we deployed it using just the decoupler below the lander, so this is the first time that I'm actually doing so. So in the end I decided just to take the pylon from underneath it and then figure out a way how to flip it. So I was trying here now attempting to flip it any which way I could. So, and I figured if I put something underneath, like science crate or a seat, that would basically maybe give it a chance, so something comes underneath and it pops up. So okay, taking a science crate, and I just said, okay, well, store it here. Okay, come on, store. And oppa! Well, that's just perfect. Sometimes, guys, you really have to be lucky. I guess I was really lucky here. So, I grabbed the pylon, and I realized that I never put brakes on the rover, so I figured use the pylon as a physical obstruction just so that my rover doesn't go haywire. And I boarded the rover. Well, that's it in terms of assembling the rover. So putting the brakes up, and now we still have to attach experiments on it. So yeah, let's leave the seat. And this is the reason why when I was constructing or upgrading this lander, why I put all of these experiments on the sides, despite the fact that I had them in the universal containers. The whole purpose of them was to take them out and attach them using Kerbal attachment system to the rover. So taking magnetometer, and here you can see one of the experiments that I by mistake extracted from the from the universal storage system. Well, it didn't contain any experimental data, so it's not really a big loss anyway. If the heating was playing a role, it would probably criticize me badly, but well, yeah. I don't have to care about it, fortunately enough. Okay, so attaching the accelerometer, and just now going a little bit back and forth and adding various experiments. So, let's see, what else do we have in terms of the fun stuff? We have the surface ablation laser, clearly. That is the fun one, that takes a lot of energy. Just flip it and come on. Put it like this, and that it has to point down, because if for some reason it doesn't point down, it will complain. Okay, then we have the thermometer, and that I'll put a little bit more front. In the end, I was thinking it would be probably a better idea to put all of the experiments up front, because it will be easier to take the data out of it. So I was thinking here, attach, put it down here, cool, and I was thinking of taking the antenna, but our PWS antenna, I grabbed it, but at some later point I actually think I realized that it doesn't do much when it comes to the surface, but I attached it still initially, so I don't know if I will remove it later. Okay, let's see what else do we have? We have this magnetometer data, or not, this like... Yeah, I was thinking taking this antenna, Communitron, but then again, I couldn't take it for some reason. Maybe I was too far, I don't really know. Then I just said, well, I'll just have to live with it in terms of coming back here and taking the lander, because we need to go take the lander to go anyway back to the surface. And then I decided, okay, let us extract the panels and put on some lighting, because, well, why not? Because we can. Yeah. So, it was actually Halri, which... it's not the Grekin, I'm sorry, it was Halri, who has recently come off his meds, and who was recently our hero who visited Minmus in that small exploration lander, if you remember. So yeah, he got off his meds and he managed to get on this mission, so yeah. Okay, I think I have more or less everything I wanted, and at this point I was really thinking of probably putting this piece of science back, but I couldn't take off using my thrusters with it, so I said, well, just leave it, whatever. So let us board the seat, and time to go roving, guys. So I'm just thinking to rename it Moon Rover, and I didn't realize at this point that I had an opportunity to do the autocollect. I now realize that I had the autocollect, which would have made my life a lot easier, guys, but yeah, well, I'll know in the future. So right now what I'm doing is I'm turning back the overlay of the biomes, because I want to set specific waypoints for the roving. And here I'm putting like Moon Highlands, just putting a location somewhere, set location somewhere close by, as close as I can muster it. I'm trying to find biome poles. Okay, biome poles. Then I want to add another waypoint Okay, I save that one. Then I want to add another one. I'm just gonna probably edit this roving site poles, yeah, just to differentiate between the potential roving site and the actual roving site, because potential roving sites mean I might be landing a rover, and the actual roving site will means yes, I'm already taking the rover there. So rover site, Highlands. It's for my own demarcation. Set location on the map, and this GUI is constantly getting in my way. Okay. And then I was thinking maybe even to take to the biome Highland craters, because it looked appealing and it looked close, and I was getting greedy. So why not? I mean, like 3 or practically 4 biomes with one go? Well, yes please. Okay. So now we are in our rover, and we figured, okay, let's collect the X-ray data. Thank you, keep the data. And I figured I might as well collect data from it. If I had known that autocollect worked, my work would have been a lot simpler, but then again I wouldn't know where the data would end up. In this way I was storing everything in this science crate, which was conveniently provided by the Umbra Space Industries as a part of the Rover pack. And now I'm noticing that the front and rear wheels are turning, which I'm not sure that I really want to be done, because that would turn in some really tight turning arcs, which would make my life pretty much miserable on turns where I would be constantly flipping. So I decided to disable steering on the rear wheels and use it as a regular car, so to say. And here we start our roving adventure. So just note for you guys, the roving will take quite a while because we're roving to different biomes, so I will accelerate it, I think, at 4 times time acceleration. So if you see that it's going really fast, that's simply the reason, because yeah, and here you can see it at a little bit 4 times acceleration. So my rover was a little bit dancing up and down, but yeah, I was very, very careful in terms of going. So right now I have managed to get some more science. I'm just looking at the biome changes. So here I got the biome Highland craters, and I just decided, okay, well, I think that Highland craters was the last biome that I wanted visited, so now we got here intersected, so we might not need to go there. And now I'm just extracting different EVA reports and everything from there, basically as much science as I can, and now I'm manually collecting all of the experiments, which is a little bit tedious, to be honest, but yeah, what can you do? At the time of playing I never realized this, and also I have decided to discard these two or this experiment because I realized that it was only to be used in atmosphere or in orbit, or actually just in orbit, so it was pretty much useless to me at this point, so I decided to relocate some of the experiments closer by. So let's try again this X-ray diffraction scan. I managed to store it and take the data and store it, and also decided to move this gravioli closer so I don't need to physically walk too much from the seat when collecting the science. Okay, so now our rover starts to slide because the slope is 30 degrees, which is a very steep slope, and it's really hard, guys, to actually run a rover on this. So yeah, so let's go towards another biome, and we were catching some airtime also during this ascent. Yeah, so just trying to drive ever so carefully, 12 meters per second, which is pretty fast for a roving speed. And at this point I was coming up on this hill, which looked very nice, and I was hoping that after that the slope was very mild. which it was here, but then again we are 7 kilometers away from the poles, so I'm just trying to drive there ever so carefully without prior checking out what's ahead, which I can tell you it's not really the smartest choice I could do. So I basically stopped here and I used a little bit time acceleration until the RTG, which was provided by Packrat, would give a little bit more this. And it's a time for a beautiful selfie if you can see it. So let us continue with the roving. So this was around 25-minute mark that where we got this nice image. And we're continuing our roving, and I think I'll probably cut it sometime midway. And here is where I encountered my first trouble, which was flipping, and that cost me 2 of all of my science experiments, and that was this surface ablation laser that went bye-bye and the X-ray scan. And the slope which I was going down was very long, so actually it costed me quite a bit of time and a lot of my nerves. So, but then again, what can you do? In the end, I managed. The rover flipped back, and here you can observe a small bug that the rover could continue without Hallery, which isn't exactly realistic, so I collected quickly as a science and boarded it again to continue our adventure towards the poles. Yes, so I just decided to continue onwards and basically try to get there, but be a little bit more careful, because this time it costed our science. And at this point I made it clear to myself, if I ever lose the science crate, I would probably scrap this mission, and because I mean then the whole point of roving and everything gets lost, so then I would need to mount a rescue mission for the Hallery over there. Okay, so we have arrived on the highlands, getting a little bit more science and trying to figure out where do we come towards the poles. And I'm thinking not that much further out. By the way, I'm thinking of probably cutting it somewhere around here, guys. This video, yeah, we have arrived on the poles, so I'll just collect the science and I'll cut the video here. The next episode we will do the rest and return. So like if you like the video, press subscribe for more content. Thank you very much for watching. This is GrunfWorks signing off.